Hey everybody, welcome back to Semi Stories. I got a couple of great stories today from r/today I messed up, starting with OP who thought he got his own sister pregnant. I suddenly remembered this story today. I don't think I've ever told this story to anyone before, so here it goes. This happened a few years ago when I was a preteen. During the summer, my family and I went back to our hometown to visit my grandparents. We were short on rooms, so my sister and I shared the same room the entire summer. We had separate beds, but sometimes my sister would trade blankets with me because my blanket was thicker and warmer. One day during the summer, I discovered porn, but instead of finishing the job when I watched it, I went to sleep that day without completing the experience. I woke up with wet spots on my bed and underwear the next day. At the time, I was about 80% sure what came out of me wasn't pee, so I went on Google to figure out what happened. I learned that I had a wet dream. I washed my underwear and my bed sheets, but for some reason did not wash my blanket. When I went back into my room, I saw my sister had switched blankets with me and I freaked out. I didn't say anything and just quickly left the room. I ran out of the room and googled, "Can you get someone pregnant from a wet dream?" Obviously, none of the results I was looking for popped out. I thought my life was over and I accidentally got my sister pregnant because she was using my blanket and a little bit of my ejaculation on it. The idea haunted me, and I didn't tell anyone because I was too scared. Maybe like a week after that, I finally got the courage to tell my dad that I got my sister pregnant. This was the conversation. "Dad, remember when I accidentally peed the bed?"
Yeah.
"It wasn't pee."
Yeah, I know it wasn't pee. You're going through puberty, it's perfectly normal.
He then walked away. End of the conversation. After that conversation, I decided to wait a few months to see if my sister was pregnant. Needless to say, she was not pregnant. I was just a really dumb child. Let me start by saying that I am so glad the story went in a different direction than I figured at first glance. OP explained in a small edit that he didn't have sex until much later, so all he knew was from Google. I can understand how this might confuse a young boy's mind. I think it was also insane luck that the dad didn't continue the conversation, otherwise the story might have gotten a whole lot more insane. In his next story, Opie has to ask his parents for permission to have sex in his room. A couple of months ago, I asked my parents if I was allowed to have sex in my room. My girlfriend and I usually have sex in the woods, but it became too uncomfortable and unsafe, so I decided to embrace the embarrassment of asking my mom and dad for permission to sleep with my girlfriend in my bed. I never wanted to have that conversation with my parents, but I wanted to show them that I was mature enough to talk to them instead of sneaking my girlfriend in and out of my room when no one was watching. Cue the awkward "can I have sex in my room" conversation. My mom struggled to accept the fact that I was sexually active and got upset at me for expecting her to allow me to have sex under her roof. In other words, the answer was no. I was 17 at the time. My mom completely lost her mind after that conversation and decided to start hiking all of a sudden, which was an obvious excuse to patrol the woods where my girlfriend and I had sex. She even managed to convince other like-minded moms to hike with her because my girlfriend and I were not the only teenagers hooking up in the woods. I called them the neighborhood watch. My girlfriend and I were forced to go deeper into the woods to lower the risk of not only being caught by real hikers, but also by mother hikers, aka the NWW. I was confidently leading the way to our next sex spot until I realized I had no idea where we were anymore. I was low-key experiencing post-nut clarity, but without the nut. There were no signs or trails anywhere. My girlfriend and I spent most of the afternoon retracing our steps instead of having sex. I don't know how long we were lost, but it was beginning to get dark when we made it out of the woods. My girlfriend was not happy with me at all. She made it clear that she was done having sex in the woods forever. My mom successfully made the woods sex-proof and cock-blocked me. Not much has changed since I turned 18. I'm still living at home with the leader of the NWW. My girlfriend and I are not having as much sex as we used to because the woods are off limits and we're too poor to pay for privacy. For the record, if you're in my position due to the increase in moms in the woods, I am so sorry. A couple of weeks later, Opie then posted the one and only update. I listened to Reddit and convinced my girlfriend to sleep with me in my room when my parents were out of the house. My girlfriend and I managed to get away with it. Twice. The first time was easy. My mom was my dad's +1 at a business event that finished late enough for me to have sex in my own bed and cuddle afterwards. The second time was not that easy, because my girlfriend noticed all of the mouse traps in our house during her first visit and became aware of the fact that we had an obvious mouse problem. Her fear of mice, which I never even knew she had, was bad enough to override her desire to have sex with me inside the house. I suggested an alternative. My dad's 1989 Toyota Corolla that was gathering dust in our garage. The car was no longer in working condition, but at least it was mouse-free. Trust me, I checked. Instead of sheets, my girlfriend and I had seats. In other words, we would still more or less have the privacy since we were still technically at my house, but the risk of spotting Stuart Little's offspring was somewhat lower. My girlfriend and I waited for another window of opportunity before getting naked in the backseat of my dad's Corolla. It was hot. Literally. No air conditioning and none of the windows rolled down. I still had sex though. Cut to the third time my girlfriend and I hooked up at my house. The two of us agreed to do it in my dad's old car again. However, when we were done, we struggled to get out of the car because the one door that worked somehow stopped working. I was unable to open the door from the inside. My girlfriend and I panicked. The clock was ticking. It was only a matter of time before my parents would be home. YouTube was no help to us at all. Out of desperation, I was tempted to break one of the car windows in order to escape. My girlfriend begged me not to do that because A, it was dumb, and B, she was worried I might get hurt. Aww. My girlfriend and I had an argument about whose fault it was that we were stuck in that situation and what needed to happen to get ourselves out. The unpopular but logical option was to call the owner of the car, aka my father, and ask him what the cheat code was to escape. I didn't want to involve my dad at all, but it seems like there was no other option that made more sense. So I made the call. My dad didn't answer his phone, which was a relief, I'm not gonna lie. I switched to texting and sent him an awkward message asking if there was a trick to opening the door of his Corolla because I was stuck inside. I expected my dad to text me back and ask what I did to end up trapped inside his car, which would have prompted me to lie. But deceiving my dad was pointless because his message made it clear that he knew exactly what was going on. How? Well, according to my dad, he realized that his old car used to smell like an old car and suddenly smelled like sex. Part of me died inside. I wanted nothing more than to unread that message from my dad. In other news, the key to opening my dad's car was to push against the door as hard as possible before pulling the door handle, not the other way around. That was my dad's pro tip, and it worked. My girlfriend and I made it out of the car. I have no idea how I became the bad guy, but my girlfriend was mad at me. She said she was done having sex with me in the woods, in my house, and in my dad's messed up car. I just did not have the energy to argue anymore, so I accepted the blame for apparently everything before saying goodbye. I was in my room when my parents came home. I was too ashamed to show my face. I was feeling even more ashamed towards the end of the evening when I heard my dad argue with my mom about me. Based on what I heard, I assumed my dad probably told my mom about what happened in the car, and she lost her mind. I usually put on my headphones and drown out my parents whenever the two of them argue, but this time I chose to eavesdrop. Which was another dumb decision of mine because I overheard my dad defending me by reminding my mom about the good old days when they were young and hooking up in the backseat of his '89 Toyota Corolla. The realization that I had sex on the same seats that my parents had sex on made my penis shrivel up inside my pubes and go into exile. On second thought, I decided to put my headphones on after all. All of the above happened in the past week or so. I'm planning on moving out soon, so hopefully that makes everyone calm the hell down about where I have sex. What an absolutely crazy story that was. OP certainly can't catch a break, making poor decisions all around. But here's what I think. Concerning the parents, I think they need to chill out. I am glad OP's dad defended him by drawing similarities between their sex life and their son's, however gross that truly is to hear from your own parents. In the end, it comes down to one thing. Would you rather your son and his paramour do the deed in a safe location where they won't get hurt? Or have them sneak off for some dirty and damp in the woods, where the chance to get injured is of course much larger? Concerning the girl, why didn't they just sleep at her place? I assume her dad would probably pull out a shotgun if he found out, but I feel it's unfair to put all the blame on OP when she doesn't even have a solution either. Now I'm wondering, have any of you ever dealt with something of this nature? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and while you're down there, be sure to leave a like and click the subscribe button, it helps a lot. In his next story, OP tries out a condom for the first time, but doesn't go as planned. Growing up, I always assumed condoms felt good. Later on, when I started making a ton of friends, my mom got me condoms randomly without discussion. Somehow she got the right size by sheer coincidence. One day I tried it on in private, but I couldn't get it off at all. If anything, it was uncomfortable. I felt a tingle, but that was it. It was not fun at all. When I put away the condom and filled it with water for fun, my penis started burning and I fell to the floor cussing like I've never cussed before. It was the first time I screamed, This was a new pain. It sucked, and it was on and off for 2 days. I missed the trash man, so I couldn't hide the evidence, so I just filled my trash bag with some random BS and threw it away. I also threw out the rest of the packet, even though I only used one. I decided to tell my mom later about how the condom burned, and I didn't say what I was exactly doing. I was scared that I, a virgin, somehow got an STD from a condom. She burst out laughing and said I was probably allergic to the latex and joked about what she thought I was doing, which was me playing with myself. My sister found out and they laughed for days. Yeah, OP is definitely not the only one that had to deal with embarrassing stuff like this. I gotta say that I've also had my fair share of awkward conversations with my mother back in the day, but to put it online, that takes balls. And for our last story, OP consuming cauliflower bites and beer on a first date does not end well. Yesterday, I drove 6 hours to meet a guy I met online and was pretty jazzed about. We went for a walk, went out to a local brewery, sat outside, enjoyed some cauliflower bites and a couple of beers while watching the sunset. We really hit it off, in conversation and in sharing some physical intimacy. We took things back to his place where things got hot and steamy in more ways than one. Fast forward to the middle of the night and I kept waking myself up to my own butthole ripping it multiple times, waking us both up each time it happens. I was in a half-lucid state, so I'd rip one, apologize, then roll back over and repeat. No thought or effort to go to the bathroom and release some pressure. It was the kind of gas you just can't hold in. I addressed it in the morning and stated how embarrassed I was. He said that he was kept up by my gas and that I also snored. We had a great breakfast, shared some smiles and laughs. Our date was wonderful, but my unconscious, unsexy conduct has been haunting me since. That is extremely embarrassing and I'm really glad that's never happened to me before. But as long as you can laugh about it, I think you have a good shot. I think the top comment explained it the best. Some couples take months or even years before they reach the shameless fart phase, and OP broke the fart barrier within 24 hours. If that isn't meant to be, I don't know what is. And now I pose a question to you guys. Which story was your favorite? Let me know down in the comments and I will see you next time. See ya!